Hi, I'm over on the Archiware stand. I'm joined by David Fox. So, David, thank you for joining us. Archiware, they're a sort of interoperable partner of us at Symply. So, what are you kind of talking about that's kind of new into the Archiware P5 product range?
Yeah, so what we're talking up at the moment, specifically around Archiware, is the fact that we can now present the Archiware server as an S3 server.
Right.
So that any S3 client software, like a MAM system, for example, can send objects to Archiware as an S3 server, and then we buffer that up, and then we'll send it to tape. So it becomes a long-term archive.
Yeah.
So that means that rather than having to sort of integrate via API calls and writing code to integrate with Archiware, you can now just use it like an S3 bucket.
Right.
The thing about that to note is that we behave somewhat slower than an S3 bucket that's going to immediately give you your files back.
Yep.
Because we've got to put a tape in a drive,
Yep.
in a tape library maybe, and then do all of the moving the tape around. So you need to treat us in the same way that you would treat AWS Deep Archive, for example,
Okay. Yep.
where you make a request for an object and then you wait a few hours for it to come
That
back.
wait state retention, just
So you have to wait for the object to come back.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's super easy to configure. You just basically define a bucket name. We give you the security credentials to put into the remote client, and we need a folder on the storage to do the caching into.
And are you seeing that customers are sort of understanding this in a way that it's going to mitigate their need to be paying that kind of OPEX cost for cloud storage and kind of bring that ownership of that archive into their control?
There's always this competition between not having any upfront costs, having access to infinite storage, but then as your archive grows, maybe the cost of that becomes a bit heavy. So then the other option is to invest in on-prem infrastructure, P5 software, and then you can have basically the same kind of storage scenario, but on-prem, ownership of the data, so you don't need to keep paying to keep owning the data. So yeah, some of our customers are happy using cloud, some of them are more interested in doing on-prem stuff.
Yeah.
And with the data mover element, which is another module that you can add into P5, you can kind of have the best of both worlds. So you could archive to on-prem tape, but also put a copy in the cloud.
And I was going to say, having a lot more people now looking at you guys as that completely joined up solution of, okay, we want to write to an object store, we want to write to the cloud, we want to have our tape copy, we're wanting to use these different mediums, we're not throwing all our eggs into a cloud basket.
Yeah, and everybody wants to be a bit agile and hedge their bets and kind of, maybe go with tape and then see how things pan out. So, plus people are looking at migrating from LTO 6s to LTO 9s, so they get that saving in the number of tapes that they need to look after. So that's something else that you can do with Data Mover. So flexibility.
Have you seen any or heard any new trends or questions coming at you guys at this year's show that
we've had quite a lot of people come over to the stand with like an estate of LTFS tapes, if you like.
Okay.
That they're looking to. They don't necessarily know what they've got,
right,
or whether they've re-archived stuff multiple times using other systems.
Okay.
So with P5, you can take all of those tapes, put them in a library, or pile them up on a drive, pull them all into P5. We'll index them in a single database, and then there's another product that we're called Data Intel that we're recommending, and Data Intel can then interrogate that index and figure that 30% of it is duplication.
Okay.
So you can then redo it, but get rid of the duplicate data and have fewer tapes.
And certainly with them moving from an older generation to a new generation, not only are you getting rid of those duplicates, but you're doing that kind of massive consolidation onto
tape capacity. Yeah, so that's something that we're seeing now.
And are you finding you're talking to a lot of people that maybe aren't aware of LTO? Obviously, a lot of people say tape is dead.
A few. We get like one or two a day come over and kind of say, isn't tape dead?
Yeah.
And then we might say, well, no, because we're talking to people all day about tape, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then we might say, have you got any idea what the capacity and speed of a tape is like? Have a guess.
Yeah. And do you often find, actually, that's an interesting thing talking about the speed, that certainly a misconception that we come across all the time at Symply is people thinking that tape is slow. Yeah. And actually it's cumbersome and it's this, that and the other. But actually the speed and efficiency of tape is actually quite different to what a lot of people expect. So do you hear that too? And people are quite surprised when you say,
I think everybody that's using tape appreciates the cost per terabyte, and that's why they're using it.
Yeah.
The people that come across that don't really, that are saying why isn't tape dead, they don't have any realistic expectation of the speed and the capacity. So when you say, the current gen is 18 terabytes per cartridge, the cartridges are under $200 for 18 terabytes, they're always surprised.
Yeah,
and then,
the ears prick up.
Their ears prick up, yeah, and they're like, oh, okay, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
And obviously it's Symply, we've been shipping LTO products now for a number of years. What is it about what we do at Symply that appeals to you guys at Archiware compared to how other people do LTO?
Well, a lot of our customers are running P5 on a Mac, which is maybe kind of surprising because an LTO drive is quite a technical IT kind of piece of, and a Mac is a bit more cuddly.
Yeah.
But I think people are comfortable with Macs, so the fact that the Symply drives have got Thunderbolt interfaces on, that's a big one, and the ease with which you can get it going. Personally, I like the industrial design and the quality of the enclosures. They're the nicest drives that you pick up and handle. They're quiet. They're just a bit nicer made than everything else that's out there, I would say.
That's good to hear.
They're not black.
Yeah. And now that we've back at IBC last year, we announced our Ethernet-enabled LTO. I know we've kind of done quite a bit of joint marketing with you guys around the proposition that offers. Are you finding that customers are understanding the benefits now about that?
It takes a bit of explaining to people, but I think when people have already got 10 gig Ethernet fabric throughout the building, throughout the facility, then they realise that putting the LTO drives on that gives them a level of flexibility in positioning drives maybe that they're archiving to or getting ready to dispatch tapes. Being able to physically locate the drive without worrying about the cabling is quite a big one. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for your time, David.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us, and I hope you have a good rest of the show.
You too. Cheers. Thanks for your time.
Thanks.
Bye.